Question for you. If you ever had, and perhaps you have, experienced something significant, so significant that eventually you could tell that it was something that, if you ever had, and perhaps you have, and pardon me, experienced something significant, so significant that eventually you could tell that it was something that, if you, let me just say hello, I'm Rick Cram and welcome. Going live on this Zoom, using a couple of devices and needing to take care of everything. But welcome. Have you ever gone through some kind of experience where you could tell that it profoundly moved the needle on how resilient you are? It had a major impact on your life. Perhaps it's still having an impact. It might be something that's caused, maybe it was something, a powerful emotional event or a time in your life. Perhaps it was a very stressful time involving work, family, or a journey with your faith. For me, it was a football injury on this day in 1975. It's 50 years. And I've been thinking a lot approaching this for the past year and a half, especially since the seventh surgery on my left knee in 2019 has left the knee in a state of trauma, and I deal with extensive blasts of pain. Usually my baseline is a dozen blasts of pain each day, and it dramatically escalates if I become active. If I go to the grocery store, or I go see a friend, I get together with a friend for lunch or dinner, and it can get to the point where I'm experiencing blasts of pain. Can be one of over 20 different kinds of pain sensations, many of them on the pain scale, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Sometimes I dare say it hits a new level above a 10. So this football injury in 1975 on November 8th in New Milford, Connecticut, had profoundly affected my life back then and throughout my entire life. So my question to you is, as I share with you the story, the number of stories to reflect on the experience, I encourage you to think of, perhaps ask me any questions that you'd like, whether you're watching this live or watching a recording, and we can have a conversation. Just 2 days ago, I was looking at this day just hours ahead with trepidation, feeling a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts over this. 50 years, basically 50 years of knowing pain every day. 7 surgeries, a lot of hard lessons. A lot of them I'm going to share with you between the time that we'll have today at this hour, as well as 6 o'clock Eastern this evening. I'll come back on. I'm going to focus on the first 50 years during our time now, and then looking at today and moving forward when we get together at 6 o'clock. I'm Rick Cram, and I am coming to you from the Metro Boston area, where I've lived since 1988. And the plan to be your best as you navigate pain method, approach to transforming a journey of pain into one of resilience, finding what your own unique resilience looks like, finding how to strengthen it in your way. This is the way to pursue becoming more resilient and looking for ways to, in your own unique way, to thrive and grow through whatever you are going through now, or even looking back on something that you've experienced in the past that hasn't yet been fully reconciled. So our time today is not so much at all a matter of looking at this journey of pain, but rather a celebration of resilience, your resilience and my resilience. To think through and to have a conversation, even if it's after this has been live and it's posted on YouTube, perhaps elsewhere. I am here for you. I am a holder of hope for you. I am someone who knows what it's like as a teenager to take a remarkable injury, have 3 surgeries by the time I'm 20, left with a fully arthritic knee, then needing 3 more surgeries in my late 30s. The sixth surgery was a total knee replacement. And then 20 years later, needing a revision of that, that's surgery number 7. And then experiencing between all the work done on the knee and what apparently might be nerve damage. The doctors don't really know why I'm in this state. But it's not just a state. There is a fluid. There is motion to this experience still today because of this one injury. And therefore, come back to asking you, what have you experienced at some point in your life? Maybe it wasn't 50 years ago. Maybe it's ongoing now. Maybe it was last year. And it's affected your resilience. It's affected your life. Perhaps it's still driving changes in your life as this is with me. So I do invite you. You can go to rickcram.com. Right on my homepage at the top, you can easily access it in real time, have uh, the link to the Zoom and to join me. We can have a conversation together, sharing some stories, sharing encouragement, sharing what is in your resilience toolkit. I'll share with you what's in mine. And for now, I'm going to go back to that day. November 8th, 1975. There have been times in the past several years where it's been extremely difficult for me to talk about it. It was a glorious day. I was living in Weston, Connecticut. This is the last football game of our senior season, the last football game I was to ever play. I wasn't going to play in college, and I was going to look forward to either running track or maybe playing tennis in college competitively. Love tennis, and I've got a tennis story to share with you a little later on. But imagine early November, beautiful fall day in southwestern Connecticut, and the temperature gets up to 73 degrees. My buddies and I on the team ride the bus up to Milford, about 50 minutes away, and we are all suited up. We've got the butterflies in our gut. We're excited. We're emotional because for the seniors, we know this is our last time of playing Weston High School football, playing together. The bond that we had and still have was profound. And the idea of walking onto that field, the football field, with the sun shining, blue skies, there's this sense of anticipation. And then there was this strange commotion. People around the field, and especially the team, New Milford, on the opposite side of the field, and people in the stands, they had a good turnout, a lot of energy, a lot of excitement. And the excitement turned upwards. People started looking up to the sky. And we started looking up to the sky, and we weren't quite sure what we were seeing. A small plane was drifting off into the distance. And then all of a sudden, we saw these 2 parachutes open. There are 2 fellows parachuting down, and they land right in the middle of this wonderful gliding land with these colorful parachutes, right, very close to the 50-yard line. And this was quite a distraction. This was something that took those butterflies in the gut and distracted us. And then they pick up their parachutes, they walk off the field, and then we can tell the game's about to begin. Those butterflies come back again. And so we take out to the field and to begin the game. And not only was it a glorious day, it turned out to be a glorious game for many of us, especially the seniors. We had a good team. We played well. We played hard. We were playing against a team that was very frustrated, to say the least. They had only won one game all year long. And they showed their frustration during the course of the game. I scored 2 touchdowns. One of the times when I went through the line and crossed the goal line and fell in. I was being tackled from both sides, and I got punched in the gut. I went back to the huddle and said to Jonesy, they're punching me. And he said, what do you want me to do about it? They're spitting on me or something like that. So it was a tough game. I scored 2 touchdowns, though. I recovered a fumble, and I intercepted a pass. I am feeling stronger than ever. I feel light on my feet. At that point, I could press over 1,000 pounds with my legs on the universal weight machine. I had a lot of speed. And it was as if I could just float over the ground. I felt quicker than ever. So between the 26 carries, running for 148 yards, I was flying high, feeling so good, and also emotional because here we get into the second half of the game. The minutes are counting down in the fourth quarter. We don't want the game to end. It's such a joyous time. And there's nothing like that camaraderie, the brotherhood with the teammates. And then the coach signals just after the 2-minute warning in the fourth quarter. Varsity, you've got 2 more plays, then we're sending in the JV because it'll give them some experience. And we're going to take you out. You've played a great game. Let's give the JV a little bit of a taste of what it's like to be on the field before next season. You've got 2 more plays. So Jeff calls a running play. I'm the running back, and the play begins, and the play is for me to take the ball. He pitches it to me, and I'm running around to the right, trying to sweep around to the right, get as close to the sideline as I could. And this player who actually I knew, we were competitive friends. We ran track against each other. I think we'd already said hello during the course of the game. You could see the fire in his eyes as he's got an angle on me as a defensive halfback. And this all happened so fast. I'm trying to turn the corner. And he runs right off my shoulder behind me, grabs the back of my jersey, and he deliberately falls down so that I spin around and flip over backwards, now out of bounds, and my left knee whiplashes violently into the ground. And I felt a kind of pain I've never felt before. And all of a sudden, in that moment, everything changed. I did get up. I had all this adrenaline. I got up partially because this happened on their side of the field. And they were cheering with so much energy. The whole crowd, the team cheered dramatically because of the dramatic and violent way that this fellow tackled me. I wanted to get away from them as quickly as possible. Go back to the huddle. I'm hurting. I could barely hobble back. And I just could tell things were different. The glory day went to a very dark day. Interestingly, I've noticed the sun light. I've got a wall of windows here, so the light's going to change and the lighting is going to change, and I'll make some adjustments. Part of what I'm doing is capturing this for Plan to Be Your Best as You Navigate Pain, the book. I'm close to pushing it over the finish line. I'm hoping that what I'm going to share with you, and for those of you who are able to join me, we talk, share stories, and think in terms of our journeys and encourage each other. And maybe there's something that I haven't captured yet from all that I've experienced. The idea of knowing that something dramatic has changed leaves you stunned. And I end up playing one more game, one more play, and then I hobble off the field. My knee is on fire. And those of us who are seniors, we're off the field. We are now in a new time. The football is over, but I could tell I'm leaving here today with something wrong. Bus ride back, even the walk off the field with some of my family. My family was there cheering. I remember walking off the field, arms around Carol, and I'm looking down as we're walking, and just the pain in the knee has my attention. And isn't that what pain does? One of the things I'll keep coming back to, and it's a key part of plan to be your best as you navigate pain. Pain, when you're feeling pain, it has your attention. It does not give you any choice, it seems. And yet you've got a choice. And I'll come back to that. What do you do when you do have so much pain that it's got your full attention and it's exhausting you? What do you do to win back your focus? And what do you do to spark new positive energy? After decades of pain and now this daily pain experience that I have, that has been one of the greatest challenges, one of the greatest calls for me to figure out for myself and for you. How do we do that? Especially when it's overwhelming, even when it's dozens of times a day. And that's what the 3 steps of resilience are all about. Tune in, plan, and be your best. We'll come back to that because I found that it is entirely possible. And I would suggest that it's absolutely necessary because we can, when we're overwhelmed with pain, like I was in that moment walking off the football field, my head's spinning. My thoughts are spinning. What's wrong? It's upsetting. My emotions are spinning. There is that vortex, that cyclone, that tempest of thought and emotion that can, and so many people come to me and say, how do I get my mind off of that? There are ways to do that. And sometimes the best ways to discover what works for you are going to come from you. So much of what my role as a resilience coach is to ask questions and to spark conversation, questions that I know worked for me and work to this day for me 50 years later. Questions that I know work for others because they're able to see through the course of conversation, explore what, when so much seems out of control, what do we have control over and what can we do about it? That's part of what it looks like to be resilient, part of what it looks like to be on a path of strengthening your own unique resilience, which is a path, especially if you've got chronic pain, whatever you're going through, that path may not end for a long time. Hopefully, it's going to end soon. If you're in pain right now, whether you're grieving, experiencing excessive stress, and like so many people, 57% of adults in the US here in 2025 say they're carrying so much stress that they feel this sense of paralysis. And it is that paralysis that is a good way of describing, again, what that pain can do, whether it's emotional pain, mental anguish, or physical pain, such as those of you who are living with chronic pain, which means you're experiencing all of the above. You're grieving the loss of comfort, you're grieving the loss of being able to be active, and there's so much stress. Part of the trauma experience that I'm having now is that I never know when the next blast of pain is going to come. There's this now, it's now in my subconscious. After the 7th surgery, I was very aware of it for the first few years, but it's almost as if maybe for the past 2 or 3 years, it's become in my subconscious. It's extremely difficult to relax because I never know when that next intense shot of pain is going to come. And I don't know what form it's going to be. Is it going to feel like an ice pick going into one of several different parts of my knee? Is it going to feel like a hammer hitting the back of my kneecap? Is it going to feel like a tearing of tissue underneath? Is it going to feel like, and it's odd, some of the sensations that I have, it's as if I'm feeling now the sensations from each of the different surgeries, the incision being cut open. Sometimes, and that is, I will say, I'm going to use some terms that I don't usually say. I've become a lion, a ferocious lion of intentionality to in this journey with pain to both survive it and to thrive in it. There are words that I won't say. I won't characterize. I won't add any kind of labels to the pain experience. I won't say it's bad. I won't describe it as awful. I will say there are no words. I don't want my own subconscious, my heart, my spirit to hear me say any negative words about the pain. But I will be quick to talk about, and there are many words, and many ways to describe my resilience. I didn't feel resilient back then in 1975. My knee was, as I was taking the bus ride back down to Weston, Connecticut, it was on fire. And I didn't know what to make of it. On one hand, I thought, all right, I'm going to need to ice it. It's going to heal. I'll get better. Um, like the year before, halfway through the football season, I was running up the middle of the line and I was hit straight on and helmets in both sides. And one of my floating ribs on my left side broke in two. It's a complete clean break. I knew what pain was, but I also had this expectation in general that, all right, you get injured. I'd broken my wrist my freshman year playing football. Maybe I never should have played football. And there were many years actually, especially in my 20s after the first three surgeries, when I wish I had not. I had grown bitter because of the pain and all that I experienced. And I'll share it with you. The idea of that pain and thinking, all right, it's bad, it'll heal, maybe I'll need to see a doctor, and then I'll get better. And my expectation is that I'll move through this, get through it, heal, and move on. And then be back to my usual self, active, fast, strong, enjoying all kinds of sports, skiing, tennis, track and field, and so forth. I had that to look forward to: winter track, indoor track, and the spring track. I was looking forward to competing at the state level in the decathlon again. But I could tell as time went by, this was different. In school on Monday, my locker in Weston High School was in the back hall, in the rear of the building. And I remember closing my locker, turning, taking a couple of steps, and it was as if no time had gone by. And I am looking up at the ceiling. I'm on my back, on the floor, thinking, how did I get here? My knee just completely, it's almost as if both legs disappeared from me. I got up, dealing with the pain, thinking, maybe I should see a doctor about this. But again, my expectation was this is going to get better and I'll be all right. I had never experienced anything like this before. And then this kept happening. I'd be walking through the halls, in and out of the classes, at home. All of a sudden, there's no leg there. I'm falling into the walls. I'm falling on the floor. I'm experiencing pain in the back of the knee. I'm experiencing this sense of the knee on fire. I'm experiencing pain in so many different parts of the knee. Something is very, very wrong. I'm 18. And this is going to be a time when I'd like to pause and share a thought for those of you who are in your in your teens, those of you who might be parents of teenagers. There's something about how I learned, looking back on it, that I wasn't prepared for the severity of the injury and all that came with it, nor going through one surgery, which I'll describe to you some of my experiences around that. Then finding I've got new problems because of that surgery, needing a second surgery and a third surgery. Teenagers today, I believe, need us to rush in to give them all the support that they can, maybe even more than they think they need. Because looking back on it, I was, as 18, as all teenagers are, even those of us and those of you when you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, the prefrontal cortex of your brain is not fully developed. The part of your brain that's strongly associated with your being able to manage your emotions, your thoughts, and your planning, your ability to make choices. Imagine having a severe injury or going through something extreme, and you're simply not only not prepared for it, you're not completely, you're not equipped to take a moment of pain like that and then realize this is my next moment and this is the moment I'm going to use my resilience to define it. Just as pain happens in the moment, so does resilience. I can do that. I have more practice at it than I wish I did. But back then, I didn't know what something like the 3 steps of resilience were. I didn't know that there are different ways to go through what I was experiencing so that I wouldn't be left with unresolved thoughts, unresolved emotions, unresolved trauma. For teenagers today, if you're one of them or you know someone, whether it's a football injury or something, that's more than a bruise, maybe, and more than just maybe a sprain or even a broken wrist. Rush in and give them all the support and show them new ways of being resilient, what resilience looks like, being gentle and encouraging, connecting with them. Because I remember looking back on it, one of the things that I did not do and wish I had, it would have made a significant difference for me, is I didn't have a chance to really talk about what I was experiencing, what my thoughts were, what my emotions were, talking about the pain experience, because it was so overwhelming. It left marks on me, and and yet they also contributed to go, especially through the years. I would say maybe it was more like later, some years later, excuse me, when all those experiences that I had at 18, 19, and 20 through those first 3 surgeries, that I could draw on lessons from it that I could use that were productive and grow from it. So, teenagers and those of you in your early 20s, um, ask for, ask questions. Don't go it alone. We're not meant to go through things alone. So the weeks went by, saw my doctor, orthopedic surgeon, more than 50 x-rays later. All right. Couldn't see exactly all what was wrong, but I could tell the meniscus was torn on the medial side and the lateral side. They couldn't see the bone chip the size of the dime. But we got to, there was November 8th, the injury. And at that time, there was only one arthroscopic machine in New York City and one in Boston. Here I am in southwestern Connecticut. And my doctor was hoping to get me scheduled to either for one of the machines to be brought up to Norwalk Hospital in Connecticut or for me to go into New York or Boston. But week after week through the course of the winter went by. And I'm suffering. Everything, everything was painful. And I had my leg in a splint the entire time. At the same, and because of that, virtually all the muscles atrophied by probably late January or in February. I had nothing in terms of muscle. The skin was just draping over the femur. It looked even worse over the shin. And I am desperate. and reeling in pain. Part of the anguish was the waiting, which I experienced even in a more profound way when I was going through surgeries 4, 5, and 6. The waiting caused a kind of trauma all of its own. I'm just going to pause for a moment to see if anyone is sharing any messages. I'm here to answer your questions. Again, I'll just pause to say I'm Rick Cram, a resilience coach, and I'm sharing with you the stories of the injury, football injury in 1975, on this 50th anniversary of that day, a day that changed my life, continues to drive change in my life. Now, 7 surgeries later, the latest, number 7 in 2019, and my knee in a state of trauma. I'm living with high impact chronic pain, still learning from it. And what I'm hoping to do is not only share with you some of what I've learned, some of my story, but that taking that whole approach of learning, staying curious, learning what you can about how your resilience works, how different ways, new ways of strengthening your resilience in a perpetual way, looking for new sources for energy, new ways to win back the focus that pain takes away, win back and create new ways of sparking hope to keep moving forward. One of the things that I ended up doing pretty early on, as I'm approaching that first surgery in March of 1976, is I was getting very bitter, bitter at the waiting, bitter at the pain, fighting the pain. And I've learned after those 3 surgeries and in the years that followed, I learned that that fight is something that causes more pain. In a way, if you fight the pain, something that's real, certainly, there's no winning that fight. What can be won by fighting the pain? I will tell you that that bitterness grew. I became angry, angry at the pain, angry at the clock, angry at the calendars. The minutes and hours and days and weeks were going by with no relief in sight, losing more and more hope, never experiencing anything like this. Perhaps in a way, I was bitter even that I didn't have, I didn't know how to do this. And so the doctor, I remember calling one particular day. I remember the phone I used, the lighting in the room, the family room, when I was talking with my folks about, I've had it. I need to move forward with surgery in some shape or form. So I pick up the phone, call the doctor's office, I explain who I am. She recognized me. People at the doctor's office knew me very well and knew that what I was dealing with. And I said, I need to talk to the doctor as quickly as possible. Is this an emergency? She asked. I said, no, but it's urgent. Splitting hairs on that one. But on one hand, it was an emergency. I was desperate. I was pining. I needed help. If I could have, I would have gone to an emergency room, stayed there until someone fixed this awful pain, this awful nightmare that I'm experiencing. Got on the got a call back from the doctor, or maybe from the office, to schedule the surgery the old-fashioned way at Norwalk Hospital. It was maybe some weeks later, maybe even a month later, but it was sometime in March, I think mid-March or so, maybe March 18th, that I had this first surgery. This is when things were different at hospitals than they are today. I went in the day before, that afternoon, the day before, and stayed overnight. So I'm there first thing in the morning for them to perform the surgery. I'm in a hospital room. I didn't know what's going on. I just know I'm sort of on this this ride. I'm going sort of with the flow, trying to figure things out. I'm nervous. On one hand, I'm so urgent, so desperate for relief. I'll do anything. So yes, go ahead and operate. I'm lying in the bed there. I'm in a room with 4 beds. I'm the only one there. And at about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, I get a roommate, this fellow who was maybe in his late 20s, maybe close to 30, a lot of hair. First thing I could tell that was odd, while he was wheeled in on this hospital bed, his foot is all bandaged up almost half his leg. You can't even see the shape of his foot. He's smoking. And I quickly learned that he was in a factory and a forklift had turned the corner at just the worst possible time where he was, and it basically cut through his ankle and it was hanging by a tendon. That explained why it was all wrapped up. And he said, he described this, he didn't really want to talk very much at all. He chain smoked for probably the next 2 or 3 hours and just stared at his foot in the bandage. I mean, this huge wrapping around it. And I'm in the bed across from him watching this and thinking, oh my God, I didn't know what to say to him. Here I am in a foreign situation, so to speak. And now I'm having this experience trying to figure out, how do I navigate this? I don't know what happened, how he did. They didn't bring him back to my room after his surgery. They came and got him around 3 a.m., maybe 4 a.m. I can't really recall. I think he went through at least a pack of cigarettes. And they wheeled him out, and who knows how long he was in surgery. And they probably came to me. I don't think I slept at all. They came to me maybe around 6 a.m., 6:30. And I don't really recall, except a few details of being prepared for the surgery. I remember coming out of the surgery and experiencing something I've never experienced before, and it was horrific. They cut both sides of my knee, about 4-inch incisions on both sides, or so, 4 or 5, and they cleaned out the meniscus from the inside, the medial side of my left knee. They removed a bone chip the size of a dime, and they removed some of the meniscus on the lateral side, the outside. My knee, I look up, the first thing I did was, as I'm trying to wake up and everything is blurry, I'm in what seems like a foreign land. My mind is scattered in a fog. There's this huge bandage around my leg. It was all wrapped up. My knee, I could tell, was horribly swollen, and it felt like it was in a vice. It was burning, a vice from both sides. And it felt that way 24/7 for the next week. Even with the morphine, it it only changed the experience of the pain. And after a week, I'd already been familiar with everything from trying to live 24/7 in one hospital bed, not getting up, and then being overdosed with morphine. Um, I started having hallucinations. One of them was the first one I especially remember. I'm lying in the bed in the middle of the afternoon, and it's as if I'm envisioned, I'm standing up looking down at the sidewalk that I'm on, and I'm just moving backwards faster and faster. And while I can't really look behind me, I can tell there's a pothole in the sidewalk. So I go to move one foot to keep from falling into it, stumbling into it. And I jolt my left leg that had just been operated on, and felt this excruciating pain, and I scream. And that woke me up, if you will, out of the hallucination. I had another one maybe some hours later, and then they realized that they had overdosed me. And so it was another 3 nights in the hospital to wean me off of the morphine and get to a point where I was both clear headed, some better pain management, and could go home. So I was in for 10 days, 10 nights. And on the one hand, as I healed from that, trying to get stronger, trying to move through the following weeks and months of um, being on crutches. Eventually, there wasn't much physical therapy, if I remember correctly, to do. I was pretty much left on my own, if I remember correctly, and trying to rebuild the leg. Eventually, going down to one crutch, navigating all of this, trying to finish up my senior year of high school, navigating everything going on socially, while there's this lingering, haunting sense of all kinds of thoughts and pain that had not been addressed. And that would become like a ball and chain going into realizing as I go to college, trying to get back, thinking, still having that expectation, okay, I'm going to heal from this, I'm going to move on and be able to get back to running. Remember Jonesy, Jeff Jones went to Wittenberg with me our freshman year together. And I remember one time I got to a point where I could go do some jogging. We went for a jog through Snyder Park. Jeff, if you ever see that, remember that? And coming back from that, my knee just did not feel, it didn't like it. It was swelling up again. That's one of the things I realized through the course of the months that followed that surgery. The knee would swell up so easily. And I came home from freshman year, um, and the knee was all wrong. What had started happening was that with every time that I straightened the leg and bent the leg, my kneecap was tracking back and forth. I'd say by the time towards the middle end of my freshman year of college, my knee was swelling and staying in a swollen state. I couldn't get it down with any kind of medication or icing and so forth. So I come home from college and I'm frustrated. I'm perplexed. I am dealing with different kinds of pain, both physical, mental, and emotional, and go to see the doctor. Now actually going to see Dr. Minkoff, Jeffrey Minkoff at Lenox Hill Hospital, who's the Cosmos team doctor. And actually saw him as well as Dr. Nicholas, who was the Jets and Joe Namath's knee doctor. The two come in to take a look and they examine the x-rays, they examine the knee. My dad's sitting there in a chair watching these two doctors talk about what's going on with my knee. They had noticed in the x-rays that the kneecap had doubled in size from the irritation of tracking back and forth across the end of my femur. And the more that they started comparing notes on what the options were, how to approach this, they're talking about surgery. And I'm thinking like, oh no. And yet, here I am again, desperate. I'm in so much pain. I don't want another surgery. I want relief. And here I am now. I'm 19, and going on 20. And the idea of listening to these doctors talk about options that scared the hell out of me. And the more they talked, the more they shouted at each other. The more Dr. Minkoff was certain that he could use the arthroscope to basically set the kneecap free from the state of tracking back and forth. And he got dug in, the more Dr. Nicholas became enraged. Dr. Minkoff described the idea of cutting the lining of the joint, which, looking back on it now, didn't make sense. The lining of the joint is basically fluid. I've had the lining of the joint removed, but it grows back. It was removed in my 7th surgery. but it's synovial fluid, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong about that. But so there's no such thing as really cutting the lining of a joint, unless he was referring to something else, which is possible. But Nicholas was so enraged, and Minkoff was digging his heels in, doing a pretty good job of staying calm, perhaps, and that's one of the reasons why Nicholas got so angry. Nicholas was sure that they needed to open up the knee, uh, remove half the kneecap, scale it back down to the normal size, and do some other things he was describing. But he stormed out, and Minkoff described what he recommended in a way that was minimalistic. I didn't really completely. He was seemed to be confident in the idea, which of what he wanted to do, but I didn't know what to do. My dad and I left, and my head's spinning, and it's as if. Have you ever experienced something where like time is standing still? When I got on the elevator, went down. Um, is that when that was? There was a time when I went down the elevator at Lennox Hill Hospital, and there was a man in his mid 80s who was beaming in a way. He looked at me. He said, I've had both knees replaced. And he pounded himself on the chest. He said, I'm back to playing golf. And I was impressed with his energy in a way, but thinking, I don't want to think about knee replacements. I just want to get this knee fixed. Dad and I walk out onto the sidewalk there in Manhattan, and I paused and stopped, and I said, actually, let's go back. I want to say yes to Minkoff. Let's do this surgery, which we did that August. And the idea of now I'm putting hope in this, I'm putting uh, expectations that I'll get relief and then get back to my life again and back to being active, and all this nightmare will come to an end and be part of my past. All the while, never addressing the storms of thought, the never addressing and caring for the all the that I was experiencing between the daily pain, all the different kinds of pain sensations, and every day experiencing multiple times that cyclone of thought, emotion, and more pain, never getting that addressed. Have the surgery, go into Lenox Hill Hospital, and go. It's with the arthroscope. Go through that and go home. I don't remember too much more about the. There are a few things about the hospital stay. I remember one particular nurse who was this sassy New Yorker, and every time she either passed my room or I was there for only 3 nights, I think. Um, and yeah, what a comparison! Arthroscopic surgery back then, in the late 70s, um, and or mid late 70s, and I was in the hospital for a few nights. A good friend of mine just had a total knee replacement, and he was out an hour and a half later. Times have changed. But this one particular nurse who sort of was aggravating, she'd walk by my room or walk into the room to tend to me. And she would just always say, "Hey, Cram. Hey, Cram. How you doing, Cram?" It's almost as if she's trying to get below my skin, but I didn't let that happen. But I didn't need that. You know, people who are going through an extremely intense amount of pain, surgery, and so forth. And I'm going to share a tip with you that helps improve the kind of healthcare that you get, whether you're dealing with surgery or something less severe, whatever it might be. I ended up learning, and I wish I knew then. Here's another example of what I wish I knew then. Going into the hospital, you're absorbed, you're immersed in thought and focus on the pain, on the experience, navigating new experiences, new people. You know you're about to have another surgery. What I found is that it's helpful. going into a situation like that, where you take your mind off yourself and everything you're experiencing this way, virtually everyone you have a chance to talk to, whether it's when you're getting checked in, administered, checking into the hospital for the procedure, every nurse that cares for you, everyone you have a chance, ask them, how did you choose a path in healthcare? And listen with curiosity and listen to this amazing stories that you'll hear. And there's a few reasons why this makes a huge difference. At least this is what I've experienced. You're taking this difficult, painful, tense, stressful time, and when you're absorbed and so focused on what you're experiencing and all that comes with it, and now you're focusing on not only someone else, but someone else is caring for you. They're now seeing you be someone other than any other patient that they've got. Every other patient is immersed in their own experience. And now here's a nurse or an aide remembering and sharing their story of why they are doing what they're doing, why they are caring for others. They see now you as someone who is interested in them. There's creating more of a connection, and that connection translates into both better care. They'll walk in the next time with more eager anticipation. I'd like to see this person because they're interested in me. That you're in a relationship when you're in the hospital, in a hospital bed with someone who comes in and asks you questions that you really, every time they ask you a question that you don't want to answer. You know what I'm talking about? But it changes the relationship. It also takes your focus off of yourself and onto them. Better relationship translates into better health care. Give it a try. The idea of, oh, and I wish I knew this back then. I wish I had this kind of a mantra from my resilience toolkit back then, that the pain doesn't define me, resilience does. And being able to say that is winning back the focus from the pain, sparking new positive energy to do something extremely important. And that is to take the temptation to fight the pain, to fight everything they are experiencing, and trade that for flow to moving forward. I'm not saying don't care for your experience. In fact, I believe we need to elevate that as well, as elevate the way that we're thinking about and navigating our experiences, because actually being able to trade the fight for flow gets you to a point where you can be in a better place to care for everything that you're experiencing. The all the upsetting mental thoughts and the trauma, all the tremendous emotional distress, that all needs to get cared for. And you'll know how and when to do that. If you need that, that's what I'm here for as a resilience coach. And I'm a trained caregiver. Also, even from the business experience that I've had for the past 30 plus 40 years now in communications and marketing, and knowing what kinds of strategies in business, communications, and marketing, both for any media, especially live events, which strategies and skills help to drive positive change, helping to be someone who leads themselves and others through change is, and everything involved with that is what is involved with being resilient and navigating, going through a painful time. Those same strategies and skills that help others, and the ones that I use to teach others how to lead themselves and others through challenges, no matter how tough things get, apply to exactly that. The way you communicate with yourself, the way you think about the words you're using, the way you're shaping your perspectives, challenging perspectives, making time for yourself, making time and putting time and energy into not going it alone. These are factors that make a tremendous difference and is part of some of the numerous ways of being more intentional. Did I already say earlier that the level of pain needs to be matched by the level of intentionality? I especially learned that going through surgeries 4, 5, and 6, and I draw on that every day since the seventh surgery. And I'm finding as time goes by, almost always on a regular basis, I'm finding a new way of elevating my intentionality, elevating my being able to re-anchor in my who I am. When pain can shake the foundation of us and your sense of self, it can shake your sense of values. It can uh, it can actually make it can shake the way you're talking to yourself, where you find yourself saying things that you would never say to anybody else. And so many different ways of intentional being intentional. And that's the foundation for from the plan to be your best approach, the 8 paths of intentionality. Your ways of being intentional may very well be somewhat similar to mine, but always with some uniqueness, because what you're experiencing in your pain journey is completely unique to you. That's one thing, that was one dynamic, that's one truth that needs to be acknowledged and remembered through the course of going through any particular kind of healthcare program or approach, any kind of therapy. The reason why Plan to Be Your Best is different is because it's a whole person approach that actually helps you grow, and then it grows with you in every aspect of your life. A 360-degree, fully personalized approach. If you've got any questions on that, I'm here for you. I'm here to be a holder of hope for you. I'm going to do a quick check to see uh, if anyone wants to join. I've been checking emails. Appreciate you bearing with me while I do this. Let me take this chance to say I'm going to be back on again 6 o'clock this Saturday, November 8th, 6 o'clock Eastern, and talk about the the current state from moving where I am at now, what I know about resilience, and then moving forward. I'll share with you the a long list of what resilience means. For example, I'll just give you 1 or 2 examples. Resilience means strength in your sense of self. Just as I was mentioning, the idea of how any kind of major challenge or change, it could be a job change. It could be um, certainly difficulties in relationships. It could be, you name it, fill in the blank. And perhaps you can relate. So many times I've heard over the past 25 years since I was a trained caregiver is people going through a wide range of challenges. And the greater the challenge, the more often I heard, I don't know who I am anymore. And I don't feel the sense of value that I used to have. So the idea of being resilient includes strengthening your sense of self, strengthening and remembering and anchoring in your values. And that's just the starting point for going through the Plan to Be Your Best approach. So that second surgery is over. It's swollen. I've got a 7-inch scar on the inside of the knee. They had opened it up. They had took the VMO part of the quad and stretched it over the kneecap after reshaping the kneecap since it had doubled in size. Now they brought it down to normal size. They removed all the meniscus. And there I am at the age of 20 with a fully arthritic knee. And one of the things looking back on it, I didn't appreciate exactly what that meant. The idea of, actually, that's the second surgery. No, so I'm jumping ahead. The second surgery was that trick. I go off to college with a swollen, painful knee. The kneecap hadn't been fixed yet. No meniscus had been removed. So I go off to college for my sophomore year. I could barely get to class. I was in so much pain. The pain was magnified. I'm now experiencing depression. I had one meeting maybe a month or so into the semester at Wittenberg University, trimester calendar at the time. I met with a counselor and felt like, all right, that was a shot in the arm and didn't go back, but I really should have. I wish I had. Wish I had someone to talk to like that every week. But I ended up often not being able to get to class. I ended up dropping one class. I was really struggling, and I was struggling at all. Dropped one class. By the end of that semester, I had failed every class. I would try to get to class. I would I always try. I'd get to sometimes 100 yards outside of the dorm, and I'm collapsing to the ground in pain. So I go back. Once in a while, I'd sit, or lay in bed, icing my knee, and enjoying a rusty nail. I'd nurse that through the course of the afternoon. But it was an awful time, so I'd come home for Thanksgiving. And at that time, we had a full break between Thanksgiving and didn't have to go back until after New Year's. But go back to see Dr. Minkoff, x-rays, evaluation, the surgery, second surgery clearly hadn't worked. And so he moves forward to go ahead and do what Dr. Nicholas had recommended the first time. There on December 14th, I have the third surgery. That's when they bring the kneecap back down to normal size, remove all of the meniscus, bring the VMO part of the quad over the kneecap to stabilize it. And now I'm coming out of that surgery with a fully arthritic knee at the age of 20. And I'm there. So that was December 14th. And I was in extreme pain again. A lot of swelling. Occasionally they would drain it night after night. It was looking like I'm not going home for a while. And the knee felt like it was in a vice, just like it did after the first surgery, after the second surgery. Morphine. And as a sidebar, I had this wonderful roommate, Barney Ferguson, a detective who had broken his back falling down the stairs as he was chasing a murderer in Manhattan. And he had been in the hospital, I believe, already for a good, maybe a couple of months or so. We had great conversations. He ended up being the Grand Marshal of the St. Patrick's Day Parade the next year. That was a special experience. It was interesting to watch his fellow policemen come into the room, usually in small groups, with this wonderful camaraderie and energy. And they would lift up his spirits, and some of them would talk a little bit with me, which was wonderful. But I'm depressed. I'm in so much pain. I don't know if this has worked. I've now had 2 surgeries, and there's a certain dynamic that has come back that I had then. I went into that third surgery again with even more of a need for relief, and yet I was putting hope in this next surgery, but there's an inclination of distrust. How am I to know if this is going to work? And that's what it's been like now since the 7th surgery. Each next thing I try because I've got to keep trying, leave no stone unturned. Nerve blocks, talking to different doctors. I've tried so many different things, medication combinations and so forth. And almost everything makes it worse. And it's gotten to a point where I'll be trying something fairly soon called a spinal cord stimulator. And I'm approaching that I'm trying to stay neutral about it. Since so much hasn't worked, I'm going into this trying to focus, be mindful of, and embrace an attitude of both a long-term perspective and trying to squelch any expectation one way or the other. Because if I let my mind get there, like it can easily, I don't trust each next possibility. But I've got to keep on trying. So there's the third surgery. It was December 14th, day after day. And I'll share this story, which I've shared before. The doctor comes in after several days. He saw me almost every day, just like the same woman came in to wash my hair just about every day. And about a week in, he's evaluating me and saying, and I heard him say to my folks, he's not going to be able to go home for Christmas. And so my spirit's just, on one hand, just felt empty. And I had no choice. I had no choice but to try to go with the flow. There's no choice in fighting this. Here I'm in a hospital, and I'm right where I need to be to get the care that I need, as far as I'm concerned. But then on the 7th day, or the 8th, a different woman comes in to wash my hair. And we didn't talk. She wheeled in her cart with a bowl of water and towels and shampoo. It's nice to let that moment go by and put my focus back on you and this wonderful story. After she finished washing my hair, she said, "You're in a lot of pain, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." And then she asked me a question which really surprised me. And it's a question I probably, if I remember correctly, I didn't want to hear this question. She asked me, "Do you believe in Jesus?" And well, yeah, yeah. Fact was, at that time, I was mad at God. I was mad at the world, all the pain, everything I've been experiencing, each of the setbacks, feeling just diminished, angry. And she walked around the bed to my leg, which is there, and the splint soft cast at the time, and said, "I want you to close your eyes and put your entire focus on Jesus." I thought, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this hospital bed. I might as well go along with it. Close my eyes, focus. I don't say a prayer or anything like that. But she puts her hand on my leg just below the knee and holds it there, maybe for only 7 or 8 seconds. Quiet moment. And then she takes it off, walks back around the bed to her cart. And as she's walking, she said, "When I had my hand on you, you didn't feel any pain, did you?" And my jaw dropped. I said, "How did you know?" And she said, "When you put your focus on Jesus, anything is possible." My jaw dropped even more because she was right. I paid attention and I realized there's no pain. I was blown away. I was in awe. I said, "Who are you?" She said, "I'm a messenger from God." And with that, no more conversation. She takes her cart and leaves. Two things happen. The next day, the previous woman who had been washing my hair all week was there for the next hair washing treatment. And my doctor comes in the next day and he says to my folks who are there, "He seems different. He seems better." I went home on Christmas Eve. In a way that concludes what I experienced during those first 3 surgeries. I healed from that. I was able to get back to running, although I wish I hadn't. I got back to playing tennis, although I wish I hadn't. The reason being is that the doctor, well, he said in my last meeting with him, "You're going to need a total knee replacement someday." He didn't say what I could do to delay that, to put it off as long as possible, to allow me to keep my own knee as long as possible. And so I became more active, enjoyed life, knew pain every day, but nowhere near like I had. I had gotten relief. Icing my knee, ice was already what became my best friend through the years. But I didn't know it at the time, but I'm wearing out the knee. And by the time I'm in my 30s, it's bone on bone. And I now need a total knee replacement. A couple of things happened through the course of the years of getting to that point. I realized whenever I talked about the experiences that I had between the injury and those first three surgeries, that we would become tremendously emotional. I could tell there was so much unresolved care for the thoughts, the feelings I had, the spiritual experience, the every aspect of it. I hadn't fully cared for and resolved all of that. It was still with me, and it's been uh, it's been a need, that an unresolved need. Is there something that is unresolved in your life? Something you've experienced that maybe even seemingly indirectly you're aware of it and holding it in the shadows, perhaps. You might be suppressing it, but it's there. And it is something that no judgment, no fear. What do you need to do some work to care for something that hasn't yet been fully resolved? Some form of pain or some array of pain, mentally and emotionally, that still needs to be cared for. It's work. It can be hard work, but it's good work. And you're worth it. You might be feeling as though, I don't know who I am. I don't know what to do with this. All that I'm thinking and feeling, it's a kind of a ball and chain. It's kind of a ball and chain, but if you think about it, if you think about who you are, what's good about you, what's true about you, and what's unchangeable about you, including how you have so much value. And in some ways, because of everything that you've experienced, you have more value than you ever had before, because you're uniquely qualified to encourage others because of what you've experienced. You're uniquely qualified to show a kind of compassion and empathy because of what you've experienced. And especially when others know that about you, know your story, your encouragement, your care, your connection, your empathy means more. It's got more value. You are more valuable. A few years ago, when I was realizing that now surgery number 7 has left me in this very, very difficult place. See, there's a word I haven't used that word to describe this experience. I don't say difficult. I don't like to use that kind of a label. But I was in the pit a few years ago, not feeling very valuable, um, losing a sense of hope. And I'm going to a prayerful moment. And I said, God, I need you. And immediately there was this whisper in the heart. It might as well have been an audible voice in the room, because it had just as much of an impact. I need you too. And I got up. God needs me. God needs you too. You're uniquely qualified because of what you have experienced, what you are experiencing. You've got so much value. And you can make this a better place, even because of the pain, even through the pain. You have a value more than ever. This hasn't gone quite like I expected it to. I was hoping to get to the point of 20 years more through the fourth, fifth, and sixth surgeries. I think I'll do that another time, maybe this evening at 6. Um, the idea of the stories, there's so many details that perhaps I'll never capture. And maybe that'll be more for the second book. I'm trying to, on one hand, finish this first one, plan to be your best as you navigate pain, even realizing while I'm urgently trying to put this together so that I can help you and other people who are dealing with chronic pain, who are grieving or need to get unstuck from the stress that they're carrying. I'll never stop writing the book. As long as my daily pain keeps going, I need to keep writing. I need to keep expressing. And I think I'll conclude for now with this thought: how the idea of what I discovered after I went through the first 3 surgeries, that I didn't express enough what I was experiencing between the pain, between the mental journey, the mental anguish, the mental suffering, and the emotional suffering. I didn't express it nearly enough. The same is true today. It's one of the things I've elevated to express this so much more, make it part of my life. It's part of my pain management. The more I express it, the more I am everything from caring for all that needs to be cared for, processing it, using it to encourage myself, using it to encourage others. And so I'll never stop writing the book. Express more. Don't go it alone. Get a team of people, a few friends, people who you can trust, people who will listen and know how to apply active listening. If you need someone like that, I'm here for you. I'm that holder of hope for you. You're worth it. And I'd love for you to share with me your story, even share with me all the pain, and watch you get to a point where you can join me in saying, my best days are ahead of me. Thank you for watching. Comment. I'm here for you. There's Take Heart, a group where we encourage each other 2 Sundays a month. There is your Resilience Coaching Studio, 2 Tuesdays a month in the evenings, where we dip a little bit deeper into the resources, the goodness that's in Plan to Be Your Best as you navigate pain. Take a look at it. It's all at rickcram.com. But I'll be back at 6 o'clock, and we'll take a closer look at what resilience looks like now and what it can look like moving forward. Maybe I'll share a story or two from the journey between the next set of 3 surgeries. But on this anniversary, I'm eager to get to a point where I'm more focused on moving forward, not being tempted to fight, but trading the fight for flow, for moving forward and being my best. So that I can care for what needs to get cared for, that I can find new focus and strength for my strengths, more energy for my strengths, and use what I know about resilience, not wasting the pain, or what I know about resilience to help you and others be their best and realize that your best is greater than the pain.